All right. You know what it is. You know who it is. We're back. Had a week layoff, had some scheduling issues, but it's all good. We're back. We're going to be breaking down. Oh, wait, I should say, welcome back to the Fight Cast, episode 216 or 17, I think. Yeah.
16.
I got,
Yeah, I think last week was supposed to be 16.
yeah, so I think this is 16. All right, so episode 16. Got a bunch of stuff to break down. Had an exciting weekend of boxing this weekend and last weekend. And UFC was a little bit dormant, but this weekend we got everything we need to talk about with UFC. So I'm excited to talk about that stuff and break it down. I'm going to start with UFC from last 2 weeks ago and then this past weekend. Derek Lewis, did you watch the fight at all?
No.
All right, so Derek Lewis absolutely starched this. So he had no business winning the fight. He was basically losing the fight up until he knocked this guy out. So Blades was more of like a wrestling type who can act. He's a pretty good striker, but he's a wrestler. And his plan going in was to basically try to take down Lewis and tire him out and get him on the ground and just try to keep him there. And he tried to take him down a couple times. It didn't work. And then the second round, I think it was the second or third round, he went for a shot, like a double leg takedown. And Lewis just saw it coming. He wound up his uppercut, like literally just boom, caught him. And Blades was inside, like in Lewis's arm. And then he just fell like this and just dropped and was done. Lewis knocked him out. It was like I said, he just keeps catching these wrestlers. And he's just so strong. Like he might honestly be one of the hardest hitters in the UFC. He's not technical by any means. He's not clean by any means. I don't know that he has high skill in comparison to anybody in the UFC by any means. And he keeps finding a way to win. He's won his last 4 fights against wrestlers. And he's brought himself into the conversation. He can easily, he's in the, I think he's going to probably move up because I think Blades was number 2 for contenders. He's in a weird spot though. And I think I said this in the podcast last week, or I said this to somebody else. With the heavyweight division right now, John Jones is stepping in and he's going to get a title shot. Like that's what he's there for.
Yeah.
So Stipe and Ngannou are going to be fighting, I think next month. And that's going to be for the heavyweight belt. And then essentially whoever wins of Stipe and Ngannou is going to be facing Jones. Now, the issue here is that what happens with Lewis, because Lewis essentially should move up, because John Jones isn't in the heavyweight rankings because he hasn't actually been in a heavyweight fight yet.
Right.
So he's overall rankings, but he's not in the heavyweight rankings. And the thing that's going to happen here is Lewis is probably going to move up to at least 3. He's at least the third, technically 4 because John Jones, but I would say 3. And who does he fight? Because he's not going to step in for the title fight. He already beat Ngannou in one of the worst title fights I've ever seen in my life. They barely threw punches. I think in the fight there was a total of 18 connected punches, like significant punches. It was bad. And for heavyweights, yeah, it was ugly, and they were all ugly hits. There were nothing like significant. Nobody got anything. So looking at that, essentially Derek Lewis is kind of like a nowhere land or no man's land because he's, and he called out Alstar Overeem, which is just kind of weird because Overeem's lost his last 2 fights and hasn't looked good at all. So Lewis is really, I don't know what he's going for. I don't know what he's trying to do. I don't know if he's just trying to hold off and wants to fight until he gets his title shot. I do think he's earned a title shot, and I do think he will get a title shot. He's just going to have to wait, unfortunately, and he's at the back of the line. So whatever happens there, I don't know. I love Derek Lewis. I love watching the dude fight. He just doesn't deserve to win, but he just fucking knocks dudes out on their ass. It's phenomenal. It's just crazy.
We talked about that before with guys that know how to punch. And I didn't see it, but for a guy to be moving in, so his head's a moving target, and he hit him with an uppercut and knocked him out with an uppercut. There's skill involved there. You got to be pretty accurate, or at least your timing has to be pretty good.
Yeah.
But that's what happens when, there are these conversations like, oh, this guy's a wrestler, but this guy's a really good striker. And that striker has never faced a wrestler or jiu-jitsu guy like this. And all he has to do is like once he grabs him, and everyone it acts as though getting inside near a guy and grabbing him is so easy.
Yep.
Because when you do that, your guard is down.
Yep.
Your face is out there.
I'm
So
seeing
if
if
a
I can find
dude can land one fucking shot, you're done. You're done. And again, I've said this before. With a shot like that, you see it's over like that. Boom,
Yep.
you're sleeping, right? On connection. You're sleeping. You're dead on arrival. Once you grab someone, there's a whole lot of work to be done after that.
Yeah.
That's why when it comes down to, if a dude can land a shot, you got to be able to throw them those shots. You know, even in the UFC, you gotta know how to land those shots. The timing's got to be right. You got to know how to turn your punches over, turn your hips into it. Like you got to be able to do that shit to be on top for those moments like that. When it's like, okay, I'm against a guy who he's a wrestler or you know, he's a jiu-jitsu dude, and if he gets a hold of me, it's going to be tough for me. So I got to be able to land perfectly on the way in. And if you can do that, it basically sort of like cancels out anything that these guys are going to do, you know, when they grab you. Because if they can't grab you, what are they worth? You know what I mean?
And the thing, you know, in the UFC, it's different. And like, obviously there's, you know, takedowns can win you fights, but there is that, you know, and I've seen it more and more. And I think what happened was, I think that there was a very heavy gap between the bottom tier, like jujitsu guys, and then like, or grapplers, and then like the high level jujitsu guys. So I think that there was a point in time when like grapplers did have like a heavy advantage because it was like so unknown and it wasn't normal to understand grappling and understand takedowns and understand submissions. But now, you know, you can, for the most part, and like obviously you'll get like jujitsu heads who are like, yeah, you're like, that's not true. And you'll get wrestling heads who are like, yeah, that is true. But like, you can stop jujitsu, like a jujitsu fighter with really good striking and takedown defense. If you don't get taken down and you're a good striker, you're not going to get taken down. So, and this is what Derek Lewis just keeps doing. He just keeps having good defense. And this is like what Adesanya has made his living off of. Adesanya, who we'll talk about, is an elite striker who keeps his distance and has elite takedown defense. And you can't use the submissions if you can't get them on the ground, like Jake's saying. And like, if you have elite striking and power, and you can, it literally eliminates it. Like there's nothing you can do. And once you get connected with a Derek Lewis left hand, there's not really much you can do in terms of, you know, avoiding that. I want to show you this though. I know it's backwards, but I'm showing Jake right now the knockout, which should be in a second.
You see what I mean? Like, that's what I mean. Like, in order to do what he wants to do, what Blades wants to, he has to put his face in a defenseless position.
Yep.
And that's why it's dangerous. If a dude can counter that, if he can be accurate enough, and if he can time it right, really, you don't even need power like that. If you time it right, like that shot, if he wasn't knocked out cold, he would have been hurt by pretty much anyone just because of the timing, because his head was coming down. He basically was spearing in with his head, and the shot came, like, you know what I mean? It's like a car crash. And there's nothing you can do once you commit to that shoot. But it's over your face. There's nothing you can't protect your face.
But there's nothing you can do. Like, it's just,
the momentum is the momentum of your body is pushing your face forward right into a fucking punch. And if the dude lands it, I mean, again, maybe you're not gonna be knocked out cold, but you're gonna be fucked up.
It's and like I said, you know, this Lewis is a fun fighter to watch. I'm excited to see what happens. The other fight that happened this past weekend, Cyril Gane versus Rosenstruck. It was just boring. It was another one of those heavyweight fights. I've been seeing these heavy punchers lately that are supposed to have this power, just not throw punches, and they're like turning into these counter punchers and like just trying to like time their big shots. But then what's happening is these dudes so Rosenstruck is like essentially like a poor man's Derek Lewis. Like, they look the same, they walk the same, like they have power, but he doesn't have as much power. And he fought Cyril Gane, who's an elite mover. Dude's good at striking. He keeps his distance. And the fight was just Rosenstruck just standing there waiting for Gane to do something. And Gane was just picking him apart from the outside. So it's just a boring fight. And, Gane didn't get hurt. He's 8-0 now. He's, again, another person in that heavyweight division that's coming up who has a good shot to really, get a title shot eventually. And I think that what's going to happen here is that he's going to be one of those contenders. And, it's just going to see what happens next with him. Rosenstruck, I don't know what's going to happen, but it was, like I said, it was just a boring fight overall. Another good performance from that was Ankalev. He upset technically Krylov. Krylov was ranked higher than him. But Ankalev's just an upcoming, I think he's from Dagestan too. I think he's part of the Khabib camp. And they're just all animals, and which we'll talk about because there's another Khabib guy, like one of his best guys that's fighting this weekend, which I'm excited to watch. But yeah, so that was the past weekend for UFC. Ton of boxing we'll get into now. And we'll go from there. I mean, there was like 8 big fights over the weekend for boxing. And this was this past weekend, not this past weekend, but the weekend before, because Canelo fought this weekend. But we had 3
on the 20th.
Yeah, the 20th. Yeah. We had a bunch of big fights. I'm gonna let Jake start and just kind of breaking that stuff down because there was a lot to talk about.
All right, so first I'll start with the one fight that I got wrong, which was the Josh Kelly fight. And
just didn't look like he wanted it.
Yeah, I mean he looked like he couldn't get out of his own way. Like his feet were stuck. And that's like one of those things that he's known for is he showed a little bit of the head movement, especially in the first couple of rounds. And he was landing some really great counter shots. It looked like he was just going to cruise right through the fight. But then at some point he started like playing into I forget how to pronounce the other dude's name. But he started playing into his game where they would lean on each other and the dude would just work on the inside. And then Kelly got a cut on the back of his head from an elbow.
Yeah.
And then it seemed like from there, like once the blood started to drip down into his face, that he just like he saw his own blood and it looked like he just didn't know what to do after that. Dude just started pounding away at him and he wasn't moving his head anymore. He wasn't putting that jab out there anymore. And he was just taking a beating and ended up getting put down. So it was really disappointing because a dude with that much skill, seeing him not perform in that, and again, you don't want to take credit away from his opponent. Like that dude put in work. I mean, he did what I thought he was going to do. He's going to be rough and be in his face, and he did what he was supposed to do. But Josh Kelly did not do what he was supposed to do. Ended up getting stopped in the 6th, I believe.
Yeah.
So it was disappointing.
And watching that, when I watched it, like I said early on, I thought he was getting hit a lot. I don't know, maybe I was looking at it wrong, but I thought like it seemed like the guy had his number, like he had his timing down a little bit more. Like Kelly was throwing a lot more early on, and then like you said, as soon as he kind of like saw his own blood, it was just kind of like he stopped throwing punches. He wasn't moving as much, and he got caught a couple times in like the 2nd and 3rd round. I think that might have like stunned him a bit. And I don't know
one for sure. For sure. I don't know that he got stunned. I know one for sure stunned him because his leg like straightened up real quick and then he backed up. And I think that was in the 3rd round. But other than that, those first couple rounds, I mean, Kelly was blasting him with that jab, rolling away, coming back, hitting him with the 2, rolling to the other side, uppercut, body shot, rolling away. And he was getting caught with some shit, but they were all arm punches.
Yeah.
Because the dude was just sitting there with a high guard and trying to counter as fast as he could. He wasn't getting anything behind it.
Yeah.
So like I said, Kelly looked sharp, like himself, other than his feet, because he just wasn't cutting angles. Like he was moving his head and he would take a step this way, then back out and then come and reset. But he wasn't landing those shots, moving his head, cutting an angle, landing more shot. He wasn't that, and that's what he's known for. That's what he does. Yeah. A lot like Lomachenko. Bunch of punches, head movement, cut an angle, bunch of punches, cut an angle back. You know what I mean? Make the dude lose sight of you. That's what Josh Kelly does, and he wasn't doing that.
Yeah.
So yeah, he was disappointing overall.
Yeah. No, like I said, I think that whatever happens next with him, I think I always think that it's okay for fighters like this, especially like him. And like, again, we've talked about this, that like not everybody's Floyd, not everybody's going to go undefeated their whole career. And like these losses are going to help. And, I think that they do a lot for fighters because not everyone's going to have the upbringing or the management that can get them those fights that gets them to 30, 40 and 0, or there's just dudes like Canelo who are just really that good, who can like keep that record. But like, we got to stop fucking hammering the losses. Cause like a loss is a loss, but it's like fighting, it's fighting. And like, there's going to be times when you lose. And like, and Josh, this is probably a tough fight for Josh Kelly, and like the fact that he took it is, whatever, he lost. He's gonna learn from it. He'll probably come back and be significantly better.
He's only got 11 fights under his, or 12 fights now under his belt.
Yeah.
It's not like he's a seasoned vet.
And just like in boxing, especially like the UFC, it's not as bad because a lot of these bigger UFC guys, they have some losses, and like they, because they're so like broad. But with boxing, it just seems like if you lose, they're just like, oh, that's it. He's done. He's not going to be the GOAT, or like he's not going to be good because he lost once. And like they just, I think Kelly's going to come back. I think he's going to be better than he was before. And, I would say like Kelly probably wins that fight 9 times out of 10, but like he probably
should. He definitely should. Oh, and I made a mistake on the last podcast when I said that he was coming off a loss. It wasn't a loss. It was a draw.
Yeah.
You see, that's how good he is, that he had a draw. And I was like, oh yeah, he lost that fight, but I forgot it was a draw.
Yeah.
But against the guy again, it should have been a win.
Yeah.
Because I went back and I watched that fight. In between these two podcasts that we did, and he definitely should have won the fight. And that's what I mean. Like there's something, I don't know what happened to him. You know what I mean? Yeah. There could be something. That's the thing about fighting too, man. If your focus is broken just for a second, you could lose a fight. But if your focus is broken, like during camp, it's gonna fuck your whole momentum up, your whole rhythm up. Yeah. It go leap from all the way through the camp into the fight. So I don't know what happened, but the talent is there, but something happened mentally with him.
Yeah. And well, I hope he comes back better, because he's got a lot of talent. We want to get into next Valdez, Burkhalter, or let's go over Broner. Yeah.
So yeah, let's get the Broner out of the way. Up into round 8, it was same old Adrian Broner. Yeah. He was just a high guard, just eating shots, not throwing anything back. And then like the later part of round 8 and for the rest of the fight, he looked really good.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened to him, but it was the reverse of what happened to fucking Josh Kelly. At some point during the 8th round, Adrian Broner woke the fuck up and started touching that dude up, man. Yeah. He looked really good those last few rounds, in the championship round. So he looked good. They do San Diego can't fight.
Yeah.
It probably shouldn't have lasted 12 rounds, but again, Broner's been off for a couple of years. So, it's whatever. It's not that big of a deal, but he looked sharp through the championship rounds. He looked sharp.
Well, I think, and like I said, I think that I texted you, I think, during the fight, and like I don't know if he was like holding back or he was just trying to like see what he was feeling like in those later rounds, or like he was just being a dick. Like, I don't know, what else is there? Cause like he would, and I mean, I don't agree with some of the scoring of it. Like that one judge had it like 117 to 110, which was,
I think it was a little closer than that. Because, and Broner wasn't doing a lot for the first half of the fight.
Yeah. I don't get what he doesn't understand about like throwing punches. Like it just seems like he just goes in there to not throw punches. It's crazy.
Well, like I said, it changed in those last 3.5 rounds. So it looks like he landed something or a combination, or Santiago did something. And he just something turned it on. It got Broner into a rhythm because he started like he was a lot smoother. He's a lot, like you would see, he was a lot more relaxed. There was less of this high guard, and he was moving around more, countering a lot better. So I don't know. So something small happened in that round, and
I mean, it could have just been.
Who knows? Maybe I'm completely wrong. Maybe fucking that was his plan the whole time.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I'm going to toy with him for 8 rounds and then I'm going to
I
fuck
mean,
him up.
I was just gonna,
No.
I was literally just gonna say that, like, you know, I keep hearing this saying from fighters that they want to acquire rounds like in the ring, and like it could have been something where he just wanted to get his feet wet with someone he knows couldn't hurt him, and
Yeah.
like just kind of take those shots and work on some like defense. Like I don't know. I mean that would be a disrespectful thing to do, but like it's Adrian Broner, so who the fuck knows? 'Cause
I don't know, but again, I think the thing to come away with is that when he turned it on, he did look pretty fucking good. So
yeah,
it's a positive going forward
yeah.
for whoever he fights next.
Yeah, we'll see. I like I said, I think he's one of those names that like they could throw into anything and it'll be interesting, at least moving forward.
Yep.
But yeah, and then probably my favorite fight I've seen in a while was Valdez and Burkelt. That was that dude's fucking. He's got everything.
Yeah.
Burkelt looked, and I would say Burkelt for. I haven't watched a lot of him. I watched a little bit of him before the fight. He looked different in the fight, and he did not move well. And unless Valdez's speed just kind of like made him look obsolete.
It was the footwork. It was the footwork because when Burchell was taking that step forward, so Burchell, what he does is he'll jab, throw a couple straight punches, work his way in. You could see his lead foot coming up, and then it gets to a point where he just starts moving forward. And you could see he was throwing that jab out there. He'd throw a 2 out there every now and then. He wasn't really hitting anything. And then he would take that step forward to get ready to move in for that attack, and Valdez would be gone. He'd pop him with that jab, be gone. And I just think it was just too much but he couldn't find his target. Right? I mean, he wanted his target like, oh, there it is. I'm going into attack. Oh, he's gone. Right? I mean, and that's pretty much what it came down to, is that Reynoso is one of the top trainers in the world, and they had a game plan, and that combined with Valdez's skill, his talent, his heart, it just made for the perfect fight for Valdez. Like that's what he had to do to win the fight. And he looked really good, man. He looked really good. Even when Burchell came back from the dead in the 6th round.
Yeah. He's literally
and he was landing a lot of shit on Valdez. There was at one point Valdez backed into the corner and his rear foot, his rear leg bent really far down. I thought his knee was about to touch the mat. But it turns out he was just getting really low to roll under and step out. But Burchell was fucking him up for a minute.
Yeah.
And but you see, like even through that attack, like, could you imagine? Okay, Valdez is looking at this dude like, dude, I fucking rocked this dude. I fucking rocked him, knocked him down already, rocked him some more. And this dude recovered, and he's just coming at me like a fucking like Frankenstein's monster, right? Just and Valdez kept his composure, and you see he stuck to the game plan. You see he didn't change anything. He stuck to it, popping him with a jab, popping him with a 2, rolling, and then when he felt it, he would back up, time him coming in, wow, catch him with that lead hook end, right over the guard of Burchell, right on the temple. Hit him there numerous times. Right, I mean, you got about 3 inches from like the top of the glove to the top of the head there, and he was hitting that spot every time.
He was shorter.
Wait,
yeah.
Just great, just a great showing, great work, man. And then the end of the fight was cool. After it looked like Burchell was fucking dead for a minute, they got him back up, and Valdez coming over and embracing him and shit. Like overall it was a good night, man. It was a good night of boxing. And that was by far the best fight of the night.
Well, I think you said that last in the last podcast. You thought that would be fight of the year, like a fight of the year candidate. I saw that right from as soon as Burkelt came up in the 6th round and started like hitting Valdez. I was like, yep. I was like, if this dude somehow wins this, like that's gonna be like insane. But then like it was just the fact that he even got up, and that fight was like until he got fucking dropped, and like that was like a filthy knockout. But like until he got dropped, there wasn't much that was like. Valdez was in control for the most part, especially towards the end there. But I think with the fact that it was a good fight and it could have gone either way up until like that end, and you could see like, like you said, Burkelt got dropped twice, I think, right?
3 times.
3 times. So he got dropped 3 times, and he still came back and touched up Valdez until that last one. I mean, when that last one he was fucking clean to the front of the face, and just fucking that was it.
And again, that was one of those things. It has similar to that Blades knockout.
Yeah.
His momentum was carrying him forward because he was coming for the attack, and Valdez placed that shot.
Yeah, like it was kind of like when Pacquiao got knocked out and when Floyd knocked out Ricky Hatton. Yeah.
The greatest check hook in the history of boxing.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Fuck that. Yeah. But yeah, man, I think, and it just seems like you said, Reynosa's just churning these dudes out. And they're just coming out and performing, except for Ryan.
And he's got Andy Ruiz too, man.
Yeah, and Ruiz looks good.
So I'm looking forward to seeing him come back and see, because I don't give a fuck who he fights. I mean, unless he's fighting Fury. I think he's winning this next fight. Whoever the fuck they put him in there with.
Yeah.
I mean, 1, he's got the power. 2, he looks fantastic. Like he's been working his ass off in the gym. And 3, you got Reynoso. So I mean, there you got an advantage.
Well, I would love to see. I would love to see him versus Wilder. Just get Wilder the fuck out of there, because he was, Wilder said he's like, besides the 2 names that I really want, I want to take out the top guys. And Ruiz he beat Joshua. He's up there. Like that would be a great fight to watch, and I think he would fucking fuck up Wilder.
Yeah, because look at now that he's with Reynoso, I would take Ruiz in a third fight with Joshua. I would take Ruiz.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah,
for sure. We know that he has the power to put Joshua down, but now he's with Reynoso, so that the experience, the knowledge, that the game plan, the boxing game plan, the technique, all that shit that wasn't present the first time that he put him down is present now.
Yeah,
I would definitely take him in a third fight with Joshua. So I can't wait to see him fight.
Yeah, and then obviously I agree. I think that if it wasn't, I think everybody except for Fury, he stands a chance against, because I'm hoping there's some news with Fury and Joshua soon. I saw some stuff, but I didn't see anything like.
It's all set. They're still looking for the venue and exact date, because again, over in the UK they had the numbers.
And like that new strain or whatever.
Yeah. So, but Eddie Hearn came. He was on after the Canelo fight.
Yeah.
Or before the Canelo fight, he said something about it, that it's it's all set.
Oh yeah, he did. You're right. I forgot.
Yeah. I think it was before the fight. I think they were interviewing him. But so the word is that it's all set. They're just trying to lock down venue, exact date, shit like that. But it's gonna happen.
I have to say, Ryan Garcia is an annoying announcer. Did you watch him on DAZN or DAZN, however you say it?
Yeah, I'm getting sick of that guy.
He's just.
You know what sickens me the most though is that look, I'm not a religious person, mainly because I'm an adult, okay, and I'm not a fucking idiot. But I mean, people can believe whatever they want, and it's, to be honest, it's fucking exhausting and irritating to hear athletes thank God after every victory. Like if there were a God, like he'd give a fuck about you winning your measly ass fucking. Is that you got guys that are like 10-2 and fighting for like a regional belt, and they're like, oh, I just want to thank God. Like, no one gives a fuck what you want. But what's even worse is when you can clearly see it's fake. Like Ryan Garcia when he beat Luke Campbell and he thanked everyone, and I was like, oh, I almost forgot. I want to thank God.
Yeah.
Because if it weren't for him, I wouldn't be here. And it's like, he's so fake. I just want him to shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
He's like, again, I would pick him in most fights because of just his raw talent and Reynoso.
Yeah.
But I hope he does get in there with Tank, so Tank just fucking shuts him the fuck up, man.
Yeah.
That shit.
They're just letting him talk too much. He was like the main driver of like the broadcast on DAZN.
I know,
and all the questions.
And he's not wearing socks, and he's like, oh, thank God. You shut the fuck up, man. I hate that shit.
Well, we'll see.
I wonder if the creator of the universe, if there were one, gives a fuck that I win my fight. No one cares. No one gives a fuck. Idiot.
Well,
Like the creator of the universe, if there was a creator of the universe somewhere watching, like he has fucking like out of all the things going on in the universe, that he gives a shit about some football game or boxing. Like no one gives a fuck. Hey, what are you, stupid? Hey, that shit annoys the fuck out of me.
it's just I think it's just the what do you want to call it? Like the politics of it. They gotta look good. Make sure they're
I'm like,
touching
grow
all
the
their
fuck up.
bases. Yeah.
There is no God. Deal with it. Grow up. Thank your fucking
There
trainer.
might be a boxing god.
Thank your trainer for making you good.
Yeah.
Right? That's who you think.
There might be a boxing god, and his name might be Canelo.
Yeah.
He
good segue.
Yeah.
You should be you should do this shit for a living.
But Canelo, this dude is it's hard to find, and we're gonna talk about it, but it's hard to find someone to step in the ring with Canelo now. That you could see right from the beginning of that fight, he had Yildirim like on his heels. Yildirim was not going to come in throwing anything. I think Canelo connected early and he felt it and he was like, yeah, I'm out. And then there was some shots, there were some times early on when you watched the fight, Canelo was actually like waiting for him to do something. And like you could see it. And he was just kind of like, are you going to do anything? And then like, he was like, all right, and I'll just end it. And he just went for it. And like,
that's the thing about Canelo is that again, he has such a good feel, like such good, as they say, ring generalship. Yeah. But I think it's more than that, man. I almost like, it's almost like a sixth sense. You know what I mean? Like he has such a good feel for when to attack and when to pull back and be defensive. It's unreal, man. Yep. And yeah, you could see that, man. Like he was standing there looking him down, throwing like light shots in there, pawing at him, trying to get him to throw something. And he was like, fuck it, put his high guard up, put his forehead against fucking Yildirim's and just went to the body.
Fucking claw.
But you're right, though, is he came out, Yildirim had that high guard up, that bullshit European high guard. Once Canelo landed that first body shot, done. Yeah. Done. You could say, again, I don't like to say that fighters are scared. I never like to say, I don't think any of them are really scared. But I think at that moment, Yildirim like had some worry. Like, yeah. Fuck, man, I can't, like, if I move my guard at all, I'm gonna get fucked up.
Yeah.
And I think that's why he was afraid to throw shit.
And I think, Conor said something about this. Conor McGregor, he said something about this in UFC. Like, I think actually when he fought Khabib, so about 3 years ago, he was like, a left hand hurts. And he's like, when you're afraid of a left hand, it feels like a double barrel shotgun. And like, when you're afraid of getting hit from like a Canelo, and then you actually get hit by Canelo, you're done. Like, you can't walk into the ring. You literally have to walk into the ring being prepared to die against Canelo. And none of these guys are. And like, I'm not saying that I would be, I'm not saying that I would go in there, but none of these dudes have the skill to keep. And that's the thing is like Canelo has the power and the skill. And when you walk in with a guy like Yildirim who has power, but I think we both said this, or we didn't get to review this fight, but that's what I was thinking when I watched him was like, he just gets hit. Like he has the power, but he was going against bums and he was getting hit still.
Again, it's the same, but I've said this before and I say it again. I'll keep saying it. It's the same thing with all these European guys that have that high guard. They're not going to fuck with any American or any fucking fighter that moves their head, but mainly Americans, because that's, our style is more head movement and less fucking eat shots with your hands. Mm-hmm. Because after a while, like it's way too easy to get through that high guard, mm-hmm. and that's the problem, and that's why you eat so many shots. Because eventually, whoever he's fighting is going to get through that guard, and you're going to eat shots. And especially with a guy like, again, even though this fight only lasted 3 rounds, like you see the variety of punches, and combinations.
Fake check high, like
bro, like he's going fucking from. He's going 3-6, 6-3, you know what I mean? And then he's going 2-3, and then coming up with a fucking 5-2, and like he's not. Even if Yildirim was there and more aware and more into the fight and more alert, it's still so hard to figure that shit out because he's not starting with the same shot every time. He's not leading with the same shot.
Yeah.
So it's so hard to time that shit, to get a sense of like what he's gonna do next.
And with
And again,
Canelo,
the levels, like, listen, I think I've said this before on the podcast, but this is the thing that I tell all my clients, right? And I'm not sure if it's if someone else has ever said it. I want to trademark it, but the way you win fights is change speed, change levels, change angles.
mm-hmm,
And Canelo does all of that shit.
mm-hmm.
Right? I mean, he does all that shit. Like the way he was going body, head, body, head, body, head. Like, again, even if Yildirim was in the fight, that's so much to deal with because shots are coming from all over the fucking place.
And I think that with like some fighters, there's a difference in like, and this is why Canelo is so good. I think is there's a difference between the power punchers because a lot of them don't throw like heavy combos, and I mean like heavy as in volume. And the guys who throw a lot of volume usually don't have a ton of power. And Canelo can throw a 6-punch combo and have the power to knock you out at the end, where you don't have on Yildirim's end, you don't have the time to figure out the timing a lot. Because if you take that time to figure out the timing and you eat a couple shots, your night could be over. And as you saw he sat him down with that fucking straight, and like right from that point, you knew it was done. Because as soon as that happened, I don't count how many punches he threw, but I probably could have counted it on one hand with Yildirim. Like there was just nothing left after he got hit that first time, and then they called the fight.
Yeah, because he was getting hit with that again, even though he had his guard up the whole time. Canelo was finding his way through the guard and was hitting him with almost fucking everything.
Yeah.
So it's like how much you can let your guy get beat up.
Yeah. So
you can only take so much.
Yeah, and I think that one of the things that we're going to get into now is that who even goes into the ring with Canelo, and this fight and the disrespect. I've been saying this since the beginning, with the disrespect, like Canelo can do whatever the fuck he wants, but like they had the promo ready for his next fight at the end of this fight, and we're playing it on the big screen. That means they made that thing 3 weeks ago.
Yeah,
they knew it was gonna happen. Yeah. So it's just like, why even make this fight? And like, if there's a dude who like clearly shouldn't be in there, if he wants to, like, I get it. Like, I'm sure Yildirim like went into this and was like, yeah, I'd love to fight. Say I fought Canelo, but like, should he? If you're watching it, anything can happen in a fight type thing. But like, this was clear from the start of the fight that like Yildirim should not have been in the ring with Canelo. And that
it was clear from the start of the promotion.
Yeah. I mean, really, because nobody even knew who the fuck this dude was. And it's just, and I'll let Jake get into this because he was talking a little bit before about when we started, but there needs to be better decisions made about who gets in the ring, no matter what, there is mandatory wise.
Yeah. So the president of the WBC brought it up about the mandatories. He said that sometimes they shouldn't force the mandatory to happen. Like, so they have to, essentially they should have better sense of the bigger picture. I mean, like, overall, is this a good fight? Should it happen? Does it make sense? Mm-hmm. It's like, they have rules. And again, so in case anyone doesn't know, Canelo had to, according to the organization, take on the mandatory to keep his belt. And Canelo's goal is to be undisputed at super middleweight, which is to have all of the belts.
Yeah.
So for him, he's like, I have to fight this bum to keep the belt because those are the rules.
Yeah.
And what Suleiman, the president of WBC, was saying is like, yeah, I mean, maybe we should be a little more lenient on that rule.
Or because make less belts.
Well, I mean, again, there are only 4 belts that matter.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There are only 4 belts that are recognized.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there are, like fucking 9 belts or whatever, but only 4 of them really matter. Mm-hmm. And I tend to agree. It's like, okay, if the mandatory was someone who may have been a former champion, you know, like maybe if it was, I don't know, like Andre Durrell or something,
Mhm.
someone who's an actual good like championship level boxer. Okay, maybe you take that fight before you go on to fight for the other belts, the belts that Billy Joe Saunders has. But I agree with Suleiman. You know, like that maybe should be looked at. Like the rule is there for a reason. It's like because it's like okay, this guy did his work to get in that spot to get a mandatory challenge at the belt. So we have to you know respect that, right? He did his work. Um, and it kind of be fucked up if they just skipped over him. It's like, well, why did I take on these other fights to become the mandatory to get a shot at the belt if you're just going to overlook me? Because then it's fucked up on his end.
Yeah.
But what Suleiman is saying is like, look, there's a bigger picture. We have, you know, 3 guys that are holding 4 of the belts. And it's better for business, it's better for the fans if we get the guys who are holding the belts fighting each other. So maybe the mandatory takes on another fight before he, you know, some way to figure it out.
Yeah.
And I think that's what he was saying. Like they need to take a closer look at that rule, because it would also been fucked up if by the letter of the law Canelo lost his belt because he didn't fight Yildirim.
Yeah.
So like all the people that are upset, like, oh man, this is fucked up that you, yeah, it is fucked up, but it's the organization's fault. It's the WBC's fault for having that rule in place and enforcing it this way.
They'll call it the Canelo rule.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it shouldn't be enforced.
Yeah.
But it's okay. We don't have to worry about it anymore because Canelo said he wants to fight 4 times this year.
No, he's gonna
That's one out of the way.
Division.
You can almost guarantee that the next 2 fights, well, we know the next one is Billy Joe Saunders. You can almost guarantee the one after that is going to be Caleb Plant. So who's the 4th one? I don't know. Maybe it's Andre. I don't know, but I don't think it matters. I think it's going to be another undefeated year for Canelo. So
yeah, I mean, I keep seeing people saying that, bringing up Andre Ward, saying that like he's the only person that can beat Canelo right now. Is he even still fighting?
No, and as good as Andre Ward was as an active fighter, he's not beating this Canelo, this version of Canelo that's actively fighting. Because prime Andre Ward was real fucking nasty. Real, even though I think he lost the first fight with Kovalev, which was called a draw. Besides that, he was, because he came back and beat the fucking shit out of Kovalev the next fight. Other than that first fight with Kovalev, Andre Ward fucking mopped up everybody.
Yeah.
He was truly great fucking, but really smart boxer. I had all the tools. I don't know how old he is now. I mean, he's got to be pushing 40. He's got to be, you know, I think he's around my age, but even I think prime Andre Ward would have a tough time with this version of Canelo. And I certainly don't believe that this version of Andre Ward, the announcer, is fucking with this version of Canelo. I don't think anybody's fucking with this Canelo right now. I think this version of Canelo gives prime Roy Jones, middleweight Roy Jones, a run. That's how good this Canelo is.
Yeah.
And that's saying something. And no, look, I'm not going to sit here and act like, hey, man, this dude's going to, you know, mop up Roy Jones in his prime, because that's a tall order.
Yeah.
But I think it would be a fight. I think it would be a real fight. That's how good this version of Canelo is. So, one, that's some shit. Like people are reaching out, like, who Jesus Christ, who's going to beat Canelo? Andre Ward? Can we pull him out of retirement? I think that's just that people are reaching out. That's not going to happen. And if it did, I don't think Andre Ward at this point in his life is beating this version.
Yeah, I saw it like 3 or 4 times, and I was just like, I don't know what you guys are talking about. But like this Canelo, like, it's
prime Andre Ward versus this version of Canelo. That would be a hell of a fight.
Yeah. I just, you know, Canelo's just on a different level right now. We're going to continue to say it until someone shows us some type of human version of Canelo, or he can take shots. He's got a fucking chin. He can give them. He can move his head. Like, it's just, he's just on a different level, and that's really it. And his next fight will be May 8th against Billy Joe Saunders.
Yeah.
Another good fight for a belt. You know, this one should be a little bit more fun because from what I understand, Billy Joe Saunders runs his mouth a little bit, or he likes to talk. So
he does. And he can actually fight. He can fight. He's okay. I mean, I don't see this being a competitive fight, but at least the dude can fight. He
Yeah.
can box.
Yeah.
So it'll be at least something. It'll be something to watch.
Yeah. So we'll talk about that more coming up. Obviously, anything Canelo, I'm game for. But we'll finish off. We got UFC 259 this weekend. It's going to be probably one of the best cards I've ever seen in general, from top to bottom. All 5 fights are, crazy. There's I think there's 5 or 4. There's 4 champions on this card. We have a double champ opportunity here with Izzy moving up to light heavyweight at 205 against Jan Blachowicz. We got Amanda Nunes, who's a double champ herself, fighting Megan Anderson. And then we got Peter Yan versus Aljamain Sterling. We got Islam Makhachev versus Drew Dober, which I think is going to be fight of the night. And then Thiago Santos versus Rakic. Thiago Santos is coming off a loss. We'll start there. He's coming off a loss to Glover Teixeira when he got fucking dominated. And this is that was one of those things where Santos is a striker and the grappler got a hold of him and it was not good. He smothered him. He basically just he wore out Santos. Santos had no answers because Teixeira he's a true black belt. Like, he's a black belt in the truest sense. He when he gets you down, there's not many people that are going to get up because he's big, he's strong. Like, even if you are like a black belt, you're going to have trouble with him just because of how strong and big he is. So he got Santos down on the ground. That was it. He choked him out, and that was the fight. And Rakic is a more up-and-coming new guy. I think Santos is going to win here, and I think he's going to pull through. I think he's going to avenge the loss because I do think he's a talented guy and he's got a lot of skill. And, I still think he's going to get his shot towards the top. But this is just another one of those, I think this is heavyweight. I think this is light heavyweight. So this is, in that division with Izzy and Jan. And like, this could be the John Jones division. Like, this is going to be where we start to see all this stuff come to fruition. But, Santos is a good fighter, and I think he's going to pull out here. And I think he's going to win it. I'm going to go knockout in the second round. I'm going to go second round. Actually, I'm going to go first round knockout because I think if it goes past the first round, his chances get worse because I saw his conditioning last time. It could have just been because of the grappling, but I'm going to say first round knockout. Islam Makhachev and Drew Dober. So Islam Makhachev is a Habib. I don't know if he's his brother. Or related to him in any way. I know he trains with Habib, and he's got the same style as Habib, but he's a better striker. So this dude Makhachev is impressive. Like, he grapples just as good as Habib at this point in his career, but he's like a way better stand-up guy than Habib was at this point in his career. And I think he's better than Habib at striking in general, like, already. So, Drew Dober is also another name. He's a young, like, firecracker. He's had fights, in the UFC. I forgot his record. He's 23-9, but he's, I think that's his overall record. I don't know what his UFC record is, but he is a good fighter. But I think they threw him at the wolves here. I don't think he's going to beat Islam. I think Islam's going to, I think he's going to dominate the fight. I think it's going to be a really good fight, but I don't think Islam is going to lose this fight. I think this could easily be the fight of the night because I think that I think this is the closest fight between the two. And I think that Islam is going to, if he shows out, he's going to dominate. But I don't see Dober being better than Makhachev at anything. So I think that Makhachev is going to, win this fight. But I think it's going to be easily fight of the night. Peter Yan is fighting Aljamain Sterling. This is another title fight. Peter Yan is the current featherweight. Let me see here. Bantamweight. He's a current bantamweight title holder. And he's a hell of a fighter. Aljamain Sterling is a hell of a fighter. And Aljamain Sterling, I've never seen him like, he's a great fighter, but he has his moments. And like, I think his 2 fights he lost 3 fights. So he's lost 3 fights. And from what I understood earlier, is all those fights he was a favorite in. So he's only lost to underdogs. Like, he's only been upset. So He might be one of those dudes where, he just kind of gets in and overthinks who he's fighting. And like when he's fighting someone who's not as good, but then when he's in the cage with somebody, who's there, he shows up. So I'm interested to see what happens. I'm going to pick Sterling here. I think Sterling's going to win, take the belt. I think that Peter Yan, and this is why it's weird, because I think Peter Yan's a better fighter. And I think that he's a better striker. He's a better overall mover. But I think Sterling's going to wear him out, and I think he's going to catch him. And I think that because of the way that Sterling fights, I think he's going to show up for this fight. And I think he's going to kind of step in and impress everybody. And he's really going to show why he's at the top of, why he's where he is in the sport. So I'm going to go with Sterling. I think he's going to win by either a late submission or a decision. So I'm going to go decision. I think he's going to win by decision. He's going to take the belt from Peter Yan. Then we have Amanda Nunes versus Megan Anderson. Megan Anderson is a fighter out of Australia, and she's long, she's lanky, she's a decent striker, she's a good grappler. And Amanda Nunes is Amanda Nunes. She's the best fighter in women's sports right now. She's a savage. She's basically, she's just better than every woman she's fought. She's beaten Ronda Rousey. She's beaten Holly Holm. She's beaten, anybody she's put in front of her, essentially. And she's the current featherweight, and I forgot the other division. I think whatever is under featherweight. I think it might be bantamweight, but she's the champion in that as well. Now, the people that she has fought, she's just like kind of dominated them, and she's just kind of like stepped forward and just pressured them and caught them. Megan is long, and I think if she keeps her distance and she can defend in the ways that she's going to need to, meaning don't get hit too hard, keep your distance, move, get out of the way, and also be able to kind of like strike with her. I am going to go Megan Anderson here. I think she's going to beat Amanda Nunes. I think it's going to be a big upset, and I think that it's going to shock the world, and then it's going to be a second. They'll probably have a second fight after that. But I am going to go Megan Anderson over Amanda Nunes. I think it's going to be a second. Let's see. This is a 5-round fight too. Actually, Peter Yan is a 5-round fight as well. So yeah, I think I'm going to stick with Sterling for a decision. I'm going to go a 3rd-round TKO by Megan Anderson over Amanda Nunes. I could be absolutely bonkers here, and if I come back on next week and I'm sorry, but I'm gonna pick the underdog here. I feel like this is just one of those things, and I've been watching Megan Anderson on Instagram a decent amount, and she looks good. She moves well. And like I said, the length is what I think is gonna give her an advantage here. And I don't know what the exact. She's got a nice 3-inch reach advantage, and she's let's see. She's got about 5 inches on Amanda Nunes in height. So I really think that she's going to be able to keep her distance. And if she moves well as I've seen, I think she moves. I think she's going to do it. She's going to pull the upset. Now, let's get to this fight. Izzy, Jan Blachowicz. Izzy's one of my favorite fighters now. I love watching this dude fight. He's a striker. He's, a true striker he's a striker in the truest sense. He kicks well. He keeps his distance. He does everything that you're going to want to see. And especially in the UFC with as much as Jake talks about hating striking in the UFC, he gives a good name for it, I believe. And I think that he does.
Yeah, he can throw some shots.
Yeah. And he moves, my favorite part about Izzy, and I think what makes him so good, is that he can use either stance. He switches stances fluidly. He can kick from both positions. He can move from both positions. But the biggest thing is he's very good in this squared stance. So the squared stance is one of those things where if you can utilize it and UFC's type fighting, you can really start to get angles on your opponent and you can move a little bit better around. And he does it so well where he'll go from like a left to right, but as he's getting to the other side, he stays in this like squared stance and just throws a couple punches and it can move a little bit better, but he can read you because he can move in either direction. You know, most of the time when you're in a regular boxing stance, you know, for the most part, you're not going to want to cross your feet and you're going to have to either like maneuver in some way to get out of that, but he can find this squared position and then move either way depending on what he reads from the body that's happening. Blachowicz, you know, he beat Dominic Reyes in his last fight to get the belt. He's got a ton of power. The thing is, so what's going to be interesting here is, can Izzy stay away from Blachowicz for the entire 25 minutes? And Blachowicz, I really think, I think Izzy's got a chin. I think I've seen enough that I think he has a chin. I don't know that he's been dropped in the UFC. I know when he fought Gastelum, he was very close to getting, like, he almost got considered a knockdown in the UFC. Blachowicz has the power that I think could end this fight in one punch. So he's got like that Derek Lewis quality where, like, if he does catch Izzy and Izzy, you know, so again, Izzy's going to be walking in probably around 10 to 15 pounds less than Blachowicz. So the fight's at 205, but Izzy said he isn't going to gain weight. And Izzy's normally a 185 fighter. So walking around, he's probably at 190, 193, maybe 195. You know, if he walks in and he's at like 200, then obviously he gained weight. And like maybe he just put that out there to try to, you know, give Blachowicz that kind of idea. But I think that Blachowicz is going to be physically bigger than him. But I think Izzy's actually, let me see what the height difference is here. Yeah, so Izzy's an inch taller than him, and he's got a 2-inch reach advantage. You know, and this is where it's really going to come into play. And this is why, you know, I mentioned the Blachowicz first, because if Blachowicz does catch him, I really think he can end the night in one fight, or end the fight in one punch.
Yeah.
But Izzy is so good and continues to be so good at just keeping his distance, using his kicks, you know, throwing a couple punches and moving, you know, that same idea that you were talking about with Valdez, you know, where he's just there. He times it. He knows when, throws his 2 punches and he's out. Yeah. That's what Izzy does. Izzy gets in, he gets out. And then once he starts to feel you fade, you know, he uses that length. He has the, you know, with Costa, when he fought Costa, he has, you know, just the ability to use his legs and his hands at like the same time, where he'll throw that jab with his left, but as his left's finishing, his left leg is following. So you're here, you defend, you see the hand leave, kick off the face. You know, he's just so smooth with his technique, and, you know, they call him the style bender because he puts all these different things together, and he's just, I think what's going to happen here is I think he's going to dominate from the outside, and I think late he's going to, I don't know, and this is what I'm interested to see, is if Izzy has the power to drop Blachowicz, because, you know, he's jumping up 20 pounds here. And like to a true, like, you know, Blachowicz probably walks around, you know, 220, you know, he's a big dude. He's probably walking around 220, dropping down to 205. And, you know, I'm punches are obviously, you know, punches are punches. And like Izzy's probably got the skill and technique, and a kick can knock down anybody. And the other thing here is Izzy actually fought at heavyweight in kickboxing. And he fucking, you should, if you ever look up his kickboxing days, he fought a heavyweight dude and dropped the dude with a kick. It was just like filthy. He had some like crazy kicks in his kickboxing days, and I think he only lost like twice when he was a kickboxer. So I don't see this fight ending in a knockout. I see Izzy winning this fight by decision and it going to distance. And I think he's just going to stand back. If it does end in a knockout, I think it'll be Blachowicz catching him. But I'm going Izzy. I mean, nothing has shown by Blachowicz that I think he would win this fight, because I don't think he has the skill. I don't think he has the footwork. He's just kind of like, they call him the Polish hammer. Yeah. Like that's it. He's just.
Yeah. When you're as good as Izzy is, having one element to your game that you depend on that is like that. Oh, he's got the power though. And that whole thing, like you said, if he lands when he probably could put him out, but it's rarely enough when you have someone that good, that smart, that skilled.
And
That if is a huge if. That's like when through Mayweather's whole career. Oh man, if this guy he lands on him,
yeah,
don't happen when you're that good though.
yeah. And like I don't Blachowicz isn't a clean fighter. Like, and I don't mean clean as in like he's dirty. He's just not polished. Like he's
Yeah.
not a polished striker. He's not, he's not great at anything. He's just like strong and really good. And I don't really think Izzy has and this is another thing, is I don't think Izzy has the threat of a takedown to worry about. Maybe Blachowicz throws it in, but like for me, I can't see that. Like that just takes away an aspect that Izzy has to worry about, which is like the takedown defense. And he just got his purple belt, so I'm assuming he's making growth in that anyways. So he probably could handle himself. But yeah, I think Izzy's gonna win this fight. I'm gonna go a decision. I think it's gonna be a unanimous decision. I think he's just gonna sit back and touch him up. I don't think, like I said, I don't know that he's gonna have the power to drop Blachowicz, but I know that he's gonna keep his distance and he's just gonna use skill. He's just going to outclass him.
Yeah.
Hopefully this sets up Jones versus Izzy, and Jones will want to come back down from heavyweight, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. So just to recap, is there any boxing this weekend?
Yeah. The one last thing, Claressa Shields.
Yep.
First, it's a pretty big moment in boxing. It's first time that a female is going to headline a pay-per-view.
Sweet.
It's for the undisputed, I believe, junior middleweight title against Marie Eve Dinkare, I think is how you say her name. Anyone that knows Claressa Shields knows that she's an animal.
Yeah.
She's just, I don't think I've ever seen her take a step backwards. She likes to call herself the Floyd Mayweather of women's boxing. I disagree with that because she does take some shots because all she does is move forward.
Yeah.
She's more like the fucking Julio Cesar Chavez of women's boxing. Like she just goes forward and just hammers people. But this other chick it kind of has the same style. And they both got some power. They both got some power. It's gonna be an interesting fight. But I'm gonna go with Claressa Shields, just because I think she's just that much more aggressive than Dinkar or Dinkari or however you say her name. So I'm gonna pick Claressa Shields in a decision to become the undisputed junior middleweight champion of the world in women's boxing. And I think it's going to cap. There are a lot of fights. I think it's an all-female event, but I think there are like 6 or 8 fights.
Okay.
But I think that fight, I think she'll come through.
A free one, or is it pay-per-view?
Pay-per-view.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think her winning will cap a great night of women's boxing.
Cool. So to recap, Izzy, decision. Nunez is going to lose. Megan Anderson, I'm picking to upset Amanda Nunez, which is going to be huge if I get that right. And I think it's going to be a 3rd round TKO. I'm going to go Aljamain Sterling. I'm going to go decision. Islam Makhachev, I'm going to go, I think this would only be a 3-round fight. I'm going to go 1st or 2nd round TKO. And then Thiago Santos, I'm going to go 1st round KO. Then Claressa Shields, Jake's predicting to win. A lot of fights this weekend. Let us know what you guys think, your predictions. This is a stacked card. It's going to probably be one of my favorite weekends besides when Connor fought. But, we know how that went. And we'll talk about this stuff. We'll break it down, continue to break down the boxing. If you guys have any questions, let us know. We'll see you guys next time. Peace.